Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit. This week, ending Friday, August 16th. We've had a lot going on this week, Whack, with Rocket Pool. We're going to be covering ETH-Only validator news. We're going to be covering RocketLend, and some contributors got handsomely rewarded this week from the GMC. So, how you been this week?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. I've been good. I'm just going on with things and trying to survive this bear market. Like this, it's kind of brutal out there.
Yeah, let's take a look at prices. Ethereum right now. We're recording this on Thursday, August 15th. We're at 2,650. For the week, Ethereum is up 7.4%, so a little bit of a recovery. Last week, we had that huge decline. We took the elevator down, as they say. And so we've recovered a little bit on the Ethereum. Rocket Pool, it's over the week. We've had a tough week, Whack, down 6.8%
Yeah,
in US dollars. We're down on the ETH ratio as well. Man, it's been tough, since Atlas. It's just kind of steady, straight down. It's tough talking about it every week. And is there light at the end of the tunnel? That's what everyone
I
wants
hope
to know.
so. Yeah, if you press the 1 year, if you press look at the 1 year on your chart, you'll just see just how brutal it is. Like, scroll up a little bit,
Yeah,
and then
I
one
got
year
it.
right there. Yeah, if you and you see that we were actually quite in US dollar terms, but if you turn on the ETH chart as well with that, you'll see that with the ETH terms it's been down only. Can you see like in dollars it was kind
Yeah,
of stable for a while, but with ETH like it's literally down a little bump down, a little bump down, a little bump down, and it's just there's at the moment there's no end in sight. I'm hoping that this is the end that we're at right now, but there's never a guarantee, right? But it's been a really tough year for the community as a whole. And there's so many people in our community of, like we were just talking about in trading like a little while ago, that there's so many people in our community who've only ever seen RPL go down in value, right? Like because
yeah,
they got in during Atlas, that hype around Atlas, they got in at those all-time highs, and then they've just seen it go like bleed basically for the last year. So in dollar terms, it's bled like 75, 80% against the dollar. Against ETH, it's down nearly 90% from highs. So it's tough. Like, and I feel bad for those people, right? And some of those people are the ones who are leaving every week. They're exiting their validators, they sell their RPL, they just cut their losses, and they say this was bad. Like, we lost so much of our money based on this RPL price going down. And there are other people in the community who are still buying. Like, they're still earning in RPL that we're going to talk about
hmm
later. Some people are buying RPL, but those people are less. But the light that I see at the end of the tunnel now is that we've got all these really cool things that we're going to be talking about today that are hopefully going to get a reversal for RPL from here and for Rocket Pool, the protocol from here. So yeah, it's been tough. It's been
yeah.
horrible.
Have
Yeah.
you so one of the things we were hoping with was we get some whale marriages with Houston. That hasn't really
Yeah.
happened.
No, not yet.
Have you
No.
poked around at all to find out what's going on behind the scenes, or is there a regulatory issue that's holding up some of this, or
So
what have
I
you
I
found?
can't I can't answer because I don't know. No, or I can only like make guesses, right? And from some of the names that were going around before, I don't know like how accurate they were or what. But those are the names that we were hitting in Denver and like around that kind of period. Well, they have cases with the SEC, so it kind of makes sense that they're being more cautious now. But
Hmm.
the reality is that we had this idea that whale marriages were going to manifest. Langers himself in a protocol update, told the community that this is something that the team is working on, where the team would provide the RPL and outside organizations would provide the ETH. And sadly, it's just not happened yet. There might be a case that people want to see that the protocol is working fine with Houston and everything is okay, like letting it be battle tested before they put
Hmm.
potentially millions of dollars into the protocol. But right now, nothing has materialized so far. There's one thing actually that might be a little interesting is like there was a small error with the contracts for Houston about vote counting and how much votes needed for quorum. On the actual contracts itself, there was a mistake, and that is actually going to be hot fixed. I think the team's getting ready to send the changes to Audit soon. So that might be something that has made people like a little bit cautious, but I don't think so. I think it's just a mixture of all those other things that I just mentioned before.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at ETH ETF flows. We've had a pretty positive week so far, Whack. This is from Farside.
Yeah.
And starting with this week, August 12th, we had a positive inflow of 5 million. August 13th, we had 24 million. And for August 14th, we had a positive about 11 million. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all positive. It looks like the the Grayscale Trust has slowed in its withdrawals. Monday, there was zero taken out. Tuesday and Wednesday, we did have a little bit. But, nothing like the first few days, where we had triple digit withdrawals. Now we're down to,
Low double.
17 million,
Yeah.
30 million.
Yeah.
So it seems to be kind of drying up a little bit. And in the other direction, we're seeing positive inflows with the other ETFs. So any thoughts on what to expect over the next, say a few weeks or a month with
I have no idea.
ETF flows?
I think the market changing will bring more attention, right? Like, so right now people are kind of they felt that crash from last week, even the prices have recovered somewhat, especially for BTC.
Yeah.
We need to see in ETH getting a little bit of a recovery, and then with that recovery, hopefully we should see more interest on the ETH ETF. One thing that I'm looking forward to from the ETH perspective is a rate cut in the interest rates in the US, but very likely for it to come in September. That change in interest rate, like, kind of historically matches a shift from a BTC focused market to an alt focused market. It doesn't necessarily have to happen right away, but in the weeks and months after the first rate cut, and then with following rate cuts, what tends to happen is once the rate cut starts, then the Fed starts printing money again, and that adds liquidity to risk on markets. Crypto is very much a risk on market. If anything, BTC is like the least risk on asset in a very risk on market. So once the money printing starts, the rates start coming down, then flows start to the alts, and that's, I think, once that starts to happen, then we'll see some really interesting action, hopefully, in the price and in the markets.
Right. And the other thing with lower interest rates is you get, there's a ton of money sitting on the sidelines earning 5% in money market
Exactly,
accounts.
it's like trillions of
Right.
dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. And so what happens is the interest rates go down. It becomes less on a net basis, it's less profitable sitting in cash.
Yep.
Right? Because you have inflation, say it's at 3%. You're earning 5%. You're like, okay, I'm netting 2% yield here. But then as it starts to tick down, you start earning less, which then makes you want to go out on the risk curve a little farther to get a higher yield. So that bodes well for risk on markets too.
Yeah, one interesting thing that might happen from that is we might actually get more ETH being staked, because the ETH stake rate is around 3.5%, I think, right now, somewhere around there. So as those numbers get crunched on TradFi, there was this idea a few months ago that people aren't staking as much ETH because they're getting better rates in TradFi. So that argument never really made sense to me. But if that argument was true, in that case, then you might see more ETH getting staked for people to try to earn that yield and trying to sell it. But like, there's just so many variables, right? There's too many variables.
Yeah.
So,
but then the yield goes down on ETH stake as
staking,
more
exactly,
people stake.
exactly.
Well,
So,
hopefully some of that, if they do, they choose RocketPool, right, to stake their ETH,
well,
right?
as we're going to talk about in this episode, we're setting up ourselves in a really great way to make it open to that happening. So let's see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about RocketLend. This is a project spearheaded by Ramana. And we haven't talked about it yet on the Weekly Orbit, but we've got to the point where RocketLend is, I think they're about to start audits on their code. And so can you give us just a broad view of what is RocketLend?
Yeah, so RocketLend is a solution to a problem that's really big in Rocket Pool right now. So a big problem in Rocket Pool is that people don't have enough RPL to get rewards for their RPL, right? and or they don't have enough RPL to then add more ETH validators because they're under 10%. So we've realized that a whole bunch of people are leaving or spinning down validators. So Ramana had this idea of what if instead of these people spinning down their validators, they could borrow the RPL they needed for their validators from somewhere else, and they could put those onto their validator, and they could, keep getting rewards for their ETH, and maybe some RPL rewards, or they could spin up new validators if they wanted without needing to source RPL for themselves. So this is kind of where the idea came from, and it was looking at how people were borrowing from Aave and Miso Finance and other places, and was like, hey, we could do this better in like as a protocol aligned project instead of going outside to these like third parties. So that's where the idea of RocketLend came up, which was like a marketplace for borrowing RPL to stake on your validators. So since this grant application, the GMC kind of punted it for a month. Before then deciding on going through with it and funding it. So this is a GMC funded protocol. It's funded by the PDAO, so it's our community project, and the GMC is going to try to do as well as possible for the community, but Roman has been working on it for a few months now and making tweaks for it. The latest update on this is that they've got a test suite that they're trying to add more robust tests to it before it goes to audit. It's going to go to an audit with a crowdsourcing auditing firm called Sherlock, I believe. That's what they're going with. So there'll be like an audit competition where anyone in the whole world can go and poke around the code and try to find problems with it, and then get rewards for that. And it tends to be a cheaper audit system instead of like going with one of the more established auditing firms. And also, because of that, it doesn't have the reputation, but it's actually really good in terms of finding bugs and problems. Like, you pay them outright, and people are happy to do it. There are a few of these services that have come up now, so they work quite well. So that's the path that we're going with RocketLend, and the audit should be starting, I think, in about 9 days' time, from August 24th, I think. And then the audit will last about 5 days. We'll have a few days to, fix the bugs and the issues, and then it'll go to testnet, and then it'll probably be on testnet for 2 to 4 weeks, at which point potentially it could go live for the community. So RocketLend maybe is, 2 months away from going live. What it'll mean is, if you want to start up a new validator, instead of buying RPL, you can go to RocketLend and get the RPL you need. If you already have validators and you're under collateral, you can go to RocketLend and you can get RPL to make yourself above collateral again. So it's going to be a really, really cool protocol. I'm really excited about it. I was one of the people in the GMC who was like, we should do this, like, let's do this, like it could be good. But what's really interesting thing that's happened is a whole lot of other ideas are being pushed at the same time. So we've got like a plethora of ideas right now, which is actually a really good place to be in. But
Yeah.
RocketLend is one of those, like, prongs in the trident right now of exciting things happening with Rocket Pool in the short to medium term that could help give us a boost.
So here's for the basic user out there. Okay, RocketLend is beneficial. We've got lending markets for RPL. We got Aave, for example.
Yeah.
So if you needed extra RPL, you could go in and borrow from Aave to get RPL.
Yeah.
So what this, correct me if I'm wrong. So what this does is, it's going to say you're going to use your ETH that you put up as your staked ETH through Rocket Pool as your collateral. So then you can borrow against that really to get your RPL. So you're not, it's ETH you already have, but you're putting it to better, I guess, capital use, capital efficiency, because you don't have to take extra ETH and put it into Aave to get your RPL. You're going to use your ETH you already have staked with Rocket Pool as your collateral. Is that
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it makes your stake a lot more efficient, right? Because you don't have a chunk of it sitting in Aave, but that you're paying fees for, instead you're earning staking rewards on that. So it's a really nice system. I think it's quite elegant, and hopefully the community likes it. Like we've got hundreds of node operators who are currently under collateralized. Even if a
Yeah.
percentage of them use it, they will get really good usage
So
of
how does the
RocketLend.
operation work? So if you, where's it going to get the RPL from? Where's
From you and
RocketLend?
me,
It's
like
going to,
people who deposit it into
so you
RocketLend,
deposit and you get,
and
so
then
those depositors will get an interest rate
you will get
on the
yeah,
supplying it, right?
you get your RPL rewards basically for that. So you'll be getting the RPL rewards, and then I'm not sure exactly how the dynamics of it are going to work, but maybe there's a chance that you get a small amount of the ETH rewards as well. I'm not sure exactly how that'll work, but it makes sense for people to give away those rewards, right? Because they'll be giving them for new node operators coming online. It'll give them the chance to get outsized staking rewards that you wouldn't get with solo
Hmm.
staking. So giving up a small percentage of your ETH rewards might make sense as well. But I think it's going to be like a marketplace where people can say, "Hey, I want to lend out at this rate," and people will say, "Hey, I want to like borrow at this rate," and then matching those people together. But I'm not 100% full on all the technical details. I just have like the high
Hmm.
level understanding of it. But that's the way it's going to work.
Okay, that's pretty cool because that'll
Mm.
help out. If most operators are below 10%,
Hmm.
you could top it off
Yep.
without putting any ETH into Aave or anything. You just say,
Yep.
okay, well, I'll go to the RocketLend marketplace. I'll get a little extra RPL that I need.
Hmm.
Say I need 100 RPL to get over 10%, and then you'll be good. But on that, is Rocket Pool going to change? Are we going to be able to get rewards? That cliff at 10%, there's been talk about, okay, if you're below 10%, you'll still be able to get rewards. Is that something that's
Well,
going to
through
happen over
through
the next few months?
RocketLend, that will happen. So if you go below 10%, you can just use RocketLend to get back above 10%. The question that you asked is actually about a different prong of the trident that we have
Yes.
going right now. So that's the ETH-only validators. So you might want to move your screen across
Yep.
to the next tab, not that one.
There it
That
is,
one,
this one.
yeah. So this is Langer's kind of talking about it. So there's this discussion going on in the community right now of kind of doing a Saturn 0 instead of a Saturn 1 and Saturn 2, right? So that's what the community is voting on right now, right? It's the Saturn roadmap. So in the community, people like Lululo and Noshua and some others have been talking about this idea of Saturn 0. And the way Saturn 0 would work is to change the parameters of the protocol as it stands right now to allow ETH only LEB8s to spin up. And the idea, we kind of talked about this on a Weekly Orbit last week, was you would kind of want to build a TVL as much as possible before Saturn. When the fee switch happens, the worries are, of course, how is this going to impact RPL value? Then people are saying people are already leaving Rocket Pool, like they're spinning down their validators. That's impacting RPL value as well. So there's this back and to and forth that's still happening. And in all honesty, this is actually still quite controversial. So Halulu just today was talking to me about how the ETH-only validator idea is still controversial. Like there's some to and fro that's still happening. Noshua, for example, is one of the people who thinks that, the ideas are ready for RPIP now. Let's get it drafted. Let's get it put to the community. Let's get this working on as soon as possible. However, Langers still views it as being in the early discussion phase where there's still a lot of issues that need to be like ironed out and fixed. And other people, there's other people who say, actually, what are you guys talking about? Don't do this at all. Let's just wait for Saturn. And until Saturn, we'll have RocketLend and NodeSet like to kind of pick up some of the slack in the meantime. But there's no need to do this basically until Saturn. Like Saturn is what we're voting on. Saturn is what we're working towards. It's what we've spent 9 months working on. Let's just wait for Saturn. So there's three camps right now. Of those three camps, basically, one is saying, hey, this is ready, let's go. Two is like, hey, maybe there's some promise here, let's work on it more. And three being, what on earth are you guys doing? Don't touch this, like leave this alone. So there's still more work to be done here. And like as much as certain people will tell you that this is good, let's go. When it comes down to it, I don't know how that would work. Like I'm going to and fro every week and like being pushed and pulled by these different arguments, right? But there's this would, I think, be guaranteed increase in TVL for Rocket Pool, right? Like the having ETH-only validators would allow a whole lot of people to spin up their validators. This is where you were talking about the RPL cliff potentially going away as well. So whether we just let people have linear rewards down to 0%, whether we have some kind of like curve, meaning the less you have, the less you get. Like there's still those are still that's an ongoing discussion as well. But the reality is that as much as people would like this to happen like now, I don't think we are quite there yet. There's still things that need to be ironed out. And in all honesty, I think the main person to kind of convince is Langers. Like I think this happened with Saturn One as well, is that once the team started like responding favorably to some of the things, I think that added a whole lot of legitimacy to the idea, right? Like for better or worse, the team still carry a lot of weight in the wider mindshare of the community. And once you get the stamp of approval, I think a lot of people kind of fall in line. But with this, we don't have that yet with Langers, and Langers is engaging with the ideas, I think, in good faith, and trying to figure out what the best way forward is. So I don't think it's an idea that initially people are just like, what are you talking about? Like this, you can't do this. But I think what's happening is as people are like spending more time with the ideas, they're like, hey, actually, maybe we can do it like this, or maybe we can do it like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, one thing that's come up in the discussion, and Samus kind of touches on it here in his post, is we've got you can't look at Rocket Pool in a vacuum. There's other competitors, and CSM is one of them. Will be probably coming online in the next few months. What is to prevent a Rocket Pool staker from exiting the validators and going over to CSM?
Yep.
And if we basically, there's a risk there of sitting on your laurels and waiting for Saturn 1 to come, which might be 9 months down the road.
Yep.
And you just continue to bleed out.
Yep.
Is doing ETH-only validators might not be ideal in all cases, but is it a way to kind of stick your fingers in the dike and keep it from the dam from breaking until we can get the Saturn 1 going? That's one argument from this side of, hey, we need to do this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's still controversial. So it's difficult to see which side is going to win out over the next few days and weeks. However, if things go very, very, very well for this idea, this could potentially be up and running with 6 weeks to 2 months time. Like that's how little the amount of work is needed to get it going. There's just a couple of small tweaks that need to happen, but
and that don't require an audit.
yeah, that's right. That shouldn't require an audit. That's right, as far as I know. So most of it will be off chain with a new tree generation system that will need to be calculated. But the on chain stuff is just changing variables that can happen without an audit as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, another thing that's going on that's exciting is NodeSet. NodeSet is they have their audits. Are they beginning this? They're beginning later this month, which is just another week or two, right?
This week on the 19th, next week.
On the 19th, yeah. So starting next week, which is awesome. That's maybe 2 to 4 weeks faster than I had expected. It looks like ChainSafe will start their audit August 19th. Sigma Prime, who is also an auditor for Rocket Pool, right? So they have intimate knowledge of
ChainSafe as well.
code.
I've audited Rocket Pool contracts before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's good. So they're familiar with Rocket Pool. So they start on September 2nd. So that's good. Maybe we'll have this up. That'd be Constellation. This would allow folks to deposit ETH only or just deposit RPL, and they kind of get matched up and use existing node operators to run. So maybe we'll see that in a few months too, right?
Yeah. So my timeline for NodeSet has been a bit all over the place as well, where I was calculating it as being the end of October, based on audits and testing cycles and stuff. But then Nosho pointed out to me that there was 2 sets of audits happening. So then I added another 6 weeks to it. But then I realized the Sigma Prime audit is going to take place a lot earlier than I expected. So then I took away some time from it. So I think, hopefully November, we should be getting Constellation going live. Now, what's really interesting about Constellation is, this is of course the third prong of the trident that I was just discussing that, could help Rocket Pool's TVL grow a lot. But the interesting thing about Constellation is that, Nick, who is one of the co-founders of NodeSet, he was in the ETH-Only validator thread last week saying that by going ETH-Only, you guys could kill NodeSet basically before it even starts, because this is, it's just going to hurt us so much. Like we won't be able to compete, etc., etc. And he was threatening that, look, if you guys are going ahead with this, then we will not pay for the audits for Constellation. We'll just pull the plug on it and we'll do other things instead. So that, of course, would be horrible. That would not be good. But I think what's happened is, like, in the discussions that have come up after that point, like, they've seen that NodeSet still would be viable and that Constellation still would be viable, right? So the way that they're changing the commission structure and stuff for the ETH only validators. So this was actually something that I was looking out for seeing, like, what will NodeSet do in this situation? Because these audits cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they wouldn't spend that if they thought their product wouldn't work. But the fact that they're going ahead with it, I think, is actually really promising. That even though, they feel like their market might be getting squeezed a little bit from RocketLend and from ETH-only validators, the reality is that they still can go ahead and have a viable business. So this was actually really heartening for me to see, because of that threat that, or whether the threat, I guess he wouldn't say it was a threat, just a, like, explaining the reality of their situation.
Yeah.
The fact that it's working out for them hopefully will be really good for Rocket Pool.
Well, because the ETH-only validators would compete directly with
So
NodeSet
yeah, what
in
NodeSet
a
are
way,
doing is
right?
basically they're dividing the relationship across three, right? So right now, to be a Rocket Pool node operator, you need to have ETH, you need to have RPL, and you need to be, like, have the experience of running a node, pretty much. Like, that's what a vanilla validator looks like. With NodeSet, however, they're breaking up all three of those prongs. So the RPL holder can be someone completely different, the ETH holder can be someone completely different, and then the node operator is one of the NodeSet node operators. So they've divided that relationship completely. With ETH-only validators, the ETH holder and the node operator still would kind of have to be the same person. So it still kind of limits it a little bit with how that's going. And it's the same thing with RocketLend as well, where the person would have to, the node operator would have to be the ETH holder as well. So there's a bit more nuance to that, with whale marriages and stuff, protocol level marriages that can happen now with the separate withdrawal addresses. Technically, the node operator could be a third party, but the reality is that, like, mostly the person who has the ETH will be the node operator themselves. But with NodeSet, it's a different model completely. So I think it'll be a successful product from what I've heard in the background chatter. They've got some nice amounts of RPL lined up for people to deposit. They've got some nice amounts of ETH lined up for people to deposit, enough that hopefully, we can clear the deposit queue and deposit pool, clear it maybe a
It's been
couple
a
of
long
times.
time since it's been empty.
Yeah, but like that's what we're hoping for. That's the best case
Yeah,
scenario. But the thing
right.
that I'm really happy about right now is that, we've got these three different prongs that we have
Yeah, what's the
potentially.
trident?
The
So
trident
the
is
trident is
RocketLend, NodeSet, and ETH-only
RocketLend,
validators. Yeah, so three
NodeSet,
things.
and ETH-only.
Yeah, and
And
there's
those all three could happen in the next 3 months.
exactly, like, 3 to 6 months, well, 3 to 4 months,
Yeah,
basically, all three of them can happen. So that's what I'm really excited about, is that, there's actual real stuff happening. And then the best part, of course, is Saturn coming in 9 months, Saturn 1. So there's really, really cool stuff happening. And I'm just hoping that it works out the way that we hope.
yeah. Let's hope so.
Because sadly, there's been
Okay,
communications where that hasn't happened.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. We always say that these timelines, they get pushed, and I know we're promoters here and marketers of
Yeah.
Rocketful, and we get excited, but it's always, there's always delays, and we
Yeah.
probably should be more conservative in our estimates and not
I should
so
be definitely.
pos-
Yeah.
because I think we were talking about NodeSet coming online in August,
Well, that's
originally,
originally
right?
what they wanted as well, but I
Yeah.
think Houston was delayed, Houston was pushed, and then there was the bugs with
Hmm.
Houston that meant it got, pushed back even further. And then they had to wait for Houston to be live before they could start their audits. But then they had their own changes they wanted to make to their engine. So, all these, it's Hofstadter's law, right? Like, however long you think the IT project is going to take longer than that. So, yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Yep. Okay, on to some really cool news. GMC has rewarded a whole bunch of contributors to the tokenomics
yeah.
discussion. And, I didn't realize there was this many folks. We're looking at what about 15?
16
If I
people,
just
15 or 16 people, yeah.
16? Yeah, it's great. So Valdorf tops it off, got rewarded about $47,000. Samus had 34,000, Skuzel at 10,000, Nashua about 10,000, Long for Wisdom, and so on. That's really cool. They did a lot of work. This was retroactive
Hmm.
as well. So they, these folks, including yourself, you're in this list.
Yeah.
But this started a discussion and put a lot of time in, especially the top winners, just without knowing that hey, you're gonna get rewarded for this. But maybe it was in the back of their head that maybe it would be a retroactive. But they started out with just thinking we're gonna let's just make Rocket Pool a better protocol. Let's work on version 2.0.
Yeah.
Without a monetary incentive to do that. So that's really nice that GMC came through and rewarded
But
the top contributors.
this is just part one of rewards. We're also working on part two of the rewards now. So this was from November through to beginning of June, and now we're working on the second one for June and July and the beginning of August, and then there'll be another one as well for later. So in total, it was $300,000 the GMC is giving out to the community for this work, with
Wow.
the first batch, which is this one that you're looking at, which was $125,000. Then there's another one for $100,000 that we're working on right now. And then there's going to be a third one for $75,000 for the work that's
Wow.
going to come in the next period. So this is, the GMC saying this is monumental work. We really want to fund it. Of course, the GMC is funding RocketLend as well. The GMC
Yep.
will most likely do some kind of retroactive funding for people who are working on the ETH-Only idea. If that goes anywhere, maybe even if it doesn't go anywhere, there still might be some way of saying, hey, thanks for this work that you guys have done. But the GMC is I think doing a really wonderful job now of paying out money to people who are doing work in the protocol. And with the next round, actually with round two, even if you only made one comment on the tokenomics work, literally just one comment, one question, one saying, hey, this is cool, literally just one message, you will get $100. So that's just as a way
Oh,
of
wow.
saying, yeah, yeah. So that's just as a
So
way of
get in
saying,
there.
yeah, exactly. So that's just a way of saying, hey, thanks for this great work, thanks for this great effort that you've made. And here we really want to reward you for it. And this is monumental work, like literally uh, you know revolutionary work for the protocol. So if you have even been a cheerleader in the smallest way, or just asked the question, like shown your curiosity, you just said, keep up the good work, guys, you'll be getting a token of appreciation for that.
That's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
or if you have something more to contribute, jump in there too.
yeah,
We've
it's not
seen
too late.
a couple people, this year really pick who stepped in. We didn't, this time last year, Samus wasn't around. This time last year, Halulu, I would say it's wrong. I don't think Halulu was around either,
Yeah,
right? But they jumped in. They were there on the sidelines, and they saw a lane to jump in and
mm,
contribute, and now they're being rewarded for it, and they're
yeah.
doing such great work. We
Even
need,
people like,
if you're out there and
yeah,
you're one of those people, jump
absolutely.
in.
And you don't have to contribute too much, right? Like you don't have to contribute the gigabrain ideas. Like for me, look, I
Right.
got $1,700. Is that right? 1,700? Is that what it said? 1,176. Yeah,
1,176.
yeah. Okay, so I got $1,200, and that was for writing a few tweets. That was for talking about it on Rocket Fuel. Going a bit above and beyond just regular coverage. That was writing a few posts on ETH Finance and trying to get the word out there, and people valued that, right? Like, and that that was just what I'm passionate about. I love getting ideas about Rocket Pool out there. So now I'm getting like $1,200 for it, which is so kind and so nice of the GMC to do that. And this is it. Like the bar is not set high for you to get money, right? Like you might not get $47,000 like Val is, because Val did a lot of work with this, or Samus did
Yeah.
$34,000. They did a monumental amount of work, right? But you can get something for not that much, which is really cool.
Yeah. Well, perhaps the weekly orbit will be in round 2 or 3 coming up as
Yeah,
we talk
yeah,
about this stuff,
do it. Yeah,
right?
definitely put your name
Yeah.
forward.
Uh, do you have a win for this week?
Yeah, my win for this week is actually Ethereum. Like, so there's a lot of FUD going around about Ethereum and like how no one's using it and how we are, under one GWE in gas. But when you take a step back and you look at the wider picture, we have more transactions going through on layer twos right now than ever. Like, we're hitting all-time highs in activity, hitting all-time highs in users, we're hitting all-time highs across all these different metrics. And I think when you can take a step back and look at that, you'll see that Ethereum is a thriving ecosystem, and it's just the FUD right now is just unbelievable. But there are a whole lot of things that are like lining up really well for a moment where that's going to pivot, and then as soon as that happens, I think it's going to be really good times for Ethereum. So that's my win for this week, is just looking a little bit past the obvious and seeing the really cool things there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. My win is kind of dovetail off of our last topic about the GMC rewarding everyone in the community. I thought that was a little unexpected, especially in the amounts. Now, maybe I was just naive and just didn't think that those folks would be paid, but then it makes total sense. I think was Schifrin the sponsor of that?
Schifrin was like the GMC admin, right? So it's the GMC kind of, we wanted to put this forward, and Schifrin was just the person who wrote it up. But yeah, Schifrin was definitely involved in that process. So yeah.
So anyway, so it's great to see, because this is not a total volunteer organization. It shows that, hey, if you have anything to contribute, it's valued, and it's putting the talk. It's one thing to talk about, and actually another thing to pay out rewards to those helping out.
Yeah.
And I think this attracts talent. It retains talent. It's rewarding those who've put the time in. The whole point of this is, this time next year, Rocket Pool is going to look and feel a lot different and better and more competitive protocol than it is now. And it's all because of these folks that were rewarded this week.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. That's my win. It's awesome when people are paid who've done great work, and it's just going to inspire them to do more of it. So I'm really happy, and we're going to all benefit from the contributions from everyone.
Yeah, I've got another small win as well. Today is the second anniversary of Rocket Fuel. I've been doing it for 2 years now. Yeah, I've been going for 2 years.
How many episodes? 45 or something?
Yeah, that was yesterday. Was 445. Today will be 446. So that's just on the main show. And then about 25 in total of like other stuff as well. So, but yeah, the main show is 445 episodes in 2 years. Going strong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, think about 2.5 years ago, you never have thought you have done 440, well, close to 470 total podcasts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
And if you add the weekly orbit in that as well, that's another 60. So
you're over 500.
500. So
that's awesome.
It's a nice win there. So.
Oh. Well, everyone, keep watching Rocket Fuel, keep watching Weekly Orbit. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back next week for another one. Until then, have a good week, and Whack, we'll see you on Rocket Fuel. I'll watch it today. Hey, put a promo in for a Weekly Orbit too while you're at it.
I'll give it a shout out.
Get those. Okay, man. All right. Okay. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.